Welcome back to the Coding Fanatic YouTube channel. I'm your host Richard, and here at Coding Fanatic, I'm all about helping new Android developers growing quickly. Whether you're focusing on your projects, learning new skills, or finding the best ways to work with others, these are the pillars that I focus on to learn as an Android developer, and I'm taking my lessons and passing them on to you. If that sounds like content that you're interested in, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and you'll know when I upload new videos like this each week. Also join the mailing list at codingfanatic.com, and you'll get my extra words of motivation each week. Sometimes kind of rough to keep up with your work, and you just need that little extra push. So go on to the Coding Fanatic website and check it out. Road to Pro is a series about the road to becoming a professional. I go over some experiences that I've had in the industry and some of the lessons that I learned from it, what I did and what I would do differently, and I tell you guys about that here. A while back, I interviewed for a position at a new company doing Android development. And it was a typical process, fill out the application, did the phone interview, all that stuff. Eventually it came down to the skills portion and they sent me a coding test. Now, this wasn't your run-of-the-mill coding test. This one was written in Kotlin. Now, at this time, I didn't have any Kotlin experience whatsoever. So it kind of threw me through a loop. Now you might be asking yourself, well, Richard, what's the big deal? It's a coding test in Kotlin. You should have known that when you looked at the job description, right? Yeah, I guess I should have. So I went back to the job description just to make sure that my peepers here are still working. And wouldn't you know, the job description wanted someone who knows Java. They were looking for developers with a few years of Java experience for helping them build an Android app. But the coding test they gave me was in Kotlin. I was a little confused by this whole thing. So I reached out to the recruiter and I let them know, like, hey, I looked at the coding test and it looks like it's written it's in Kotlin. I thought this job was for a developer with Java experience. And the recruiter told me, hey, do your best. Now, they didn't really answer my question. They didn't ask me like, oh, well, sorry, we'll send you a different test that's written in Java, or oh, actually, yeah, there was a mistake on the job description, and it is a little misunderstanding here. We're looking for someone who knows Kotlin. Instead, they just said, oh, okay, well, man, do your best with it. Now, I know what you're thinking. Richard, why are you even telling us this story? It sounds like a mistake on the recruiter's part, and what really is there to get from this? They made a mistake. You've talked about recruiters enough on this channel. What's the big deal? Well, the whole point I'm making here, and what I figured out from this, was that coding tests are kind of meaningless. Time and time, I've seen developers online talking about, how do I get good at coding tests? They stress out and they have all these worries and anxieties about how to pass the test and things like that. In fact, if you remember a couple weeks ago, and I'll put the description over here, I think I'll put a link to it right here. There was a guy who reached out to me for help with the coding test that they weren't sure, they didn't know how to handle it, and they weren't exactly sure what to do. And I get it. Coding tests are a big part of the process, but they inherently are meaningless. It's just to see if you know how to write some code and how you approach problems and things like that. But for you as a developer, you should be more focused on your learning. So it's not so much about, okay, I'm going to learn how to code. First thing I'm going to do is learn to code. Second thing I'm going to learn how to do is beat coding tests. It's not really like that. Your goal here as a developer, I strongly suggest you focus on learning new skills and finding ways to apply them, either through your own little projects, do it at work, or if you're not in the field yet, then hey, come up with something and do it that way. But focusing on beating these coding tests is kind of like, it's a waste of time. Every company is going to do it differently. Every company is going to look for something different. The coding test is only a tool that they use to get that information out of you. So they might put a Kotlin test up for a Java position, right? And say, oh, well, we're going to see how you handle working with a language you've never used before. I don't know. That might be it. Maybe someone made a mistake and they didn't want to admit to it. hence the whole do your best thing. I don't know, but I would say that don't focus so much on beating the test. It's the same thing with anything, with driving, with getting your license and things like that. Like, a lot of people, they jump the gun and say, well, how do I beat the test so I can start driving? When really you should focus on becoming a good driver. You can take the test anytime, but pass or fail, you need to continue growing your skills as a driver. You need to get the experience, go out on the road and do things. The same thing it's the same thing with coding. Don't focus on the test. You might pass the coding test and someone else passed it better and did an approach better than you, and they get the job over you, even though you knew exactly what you were doing. I've read stories about developers giving up a weekend to work on a coding test, and from Friday after work till Monday morning before they leave for their job, they're just coding, and then they're pushing. They submit their code, and in the end, they end up not getting the job, even if it's fully functional and works perfectly fine, and all those hours down the drain. So it's not so much about beating the test, because at the end of the day, this is one component to the entire interview process. If you want to grow as a developer, come up with a dumb project, something goofy, and work on it. You guys saw what I did with Salesman's Travel. It was and I'll link that one over here too. That's two. If you're new to the channel, that's it's a project that I worked on where I took a coding challenge, and I wasn't too satisfied with just doing the challenge. I wanted to make an app out of it. So I took this Java coding challenge and then later built it into a functioning app. Right? This is one example. Throughout that, I learned how to use Java in building a UI, adding multiple activities, and figuring out like workflows for users. And then in the end, I followed it up with I learned how to use Firebase, set up a backend, and then pull information from that into the application. Now, I could have spent that time trying to find out how to beat Java coding tests and applying to a bunch of Java developer jobs and doing one after another. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but my focus was instead on how to grow my skills. What can I look for that's going to make me a better Android developer? And that's what I did. And I suggest that this is my suggestion to you all, is just to don't lose sight of that. Yes, there is money in this field, but if you really want to make the most out of it, you need to be good at what you do. Not just for these companies, for yourself. You need to be really good at it. And the only way to get there is to keep on practicing. The last thing I'll say about this is software development is about creativity. You take a problem and you find a creative way to build a tool that solves that problem. There are many ways to go about it, but ultimately you have your own unique expression, your own approach to doing it. Creativity is like the seed of development, and without that, it's hard for you. All you're really doing is just copying and pasting and copying other people's ideas and things like that. But if you really want to grow as a developer, you have to get that under your belt of, all right, here's a problem. How would I solve this? What can I do how can I go about it? And just keep doing that over and over. You'll start to build habits and patterns that'll make you just make you better at it. I mean, it is as simple as that. Keep practicing, keep getting better, keep getting good. Just like how a painter has a bunch of paint brushes in their set, you will have a bunch of skills in your set that you'll use to help you analyze problems and build applications. So yeah. Also, just throwing this out there, I ended up not getting that job because I didn't do the coding test. Who knew? I mean, I felt like, I felt kind of defeated. Like, man, I was so ready for this job, and we scheduled and we talked and we did the interviews, and then in the end they gave me the coding test, and it wasn't even in the right language to match the job post. So yeah, what the heck? I don't know. You could argue that if I'd learned Kotlin sooner, I would have been prepared for this test. But at the same time, if you as a Kotlin developer go in and they give you C++, I think you'd be a little upset, right? So, anyway, that's all I wanted to say about that. Thank you all again for tuning in. Again, I'm your host, Richard. If you like content like this, then like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications. If you didn't like it, then hey, let me know in the comment box below. Give me some feedback on ways I can do better next time. I'll keep on rolling out these Road to Pro videos because these are some good lessons in here, some bangers in here. But anyhow, again, I'm your host Richard, signing out. Follow me on social media in the links below. Join the mailing list on codingfanatic.com, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.